Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio by Bryan Leonard, and Bryan's going to give you a free pick. College Bowl action Saturday. We're going to take a look at Connecticut at Marshall, or not at Marshall, but against Marshall. And Bryan, this Marshall team, since they joined the FBS Division I back then, back in 1997, they've gone to a bowl game 11 times. They've been very successful, and they've won 9 of their 11 bowl games. But I got to say, this is a little bit lesser of a bowl than they're used to going to because they've been the class of their conference for the last several years.
Yeah, not only 9-1 the last 10 straight up, but gets the spread, 9-1. And they do have 28 players that they recruited for Florida. So those are the two pro-Marshall situations in this game, at least to me. But when you take a look at the problems with Marshall, this is a team who's 1-3 straight up against fellow bowl teams. They did not play a strong schedule. Devin Johnson, their star running back, is not playing in this game. I talked about not playing a strong schedule. If you take a look at the Sagarin ratings, Connecticut is actually 69 spots higher for strength of schedule than Marshall is. So they put up some pretty good numbers, but they did so against weak opposition. And if we remember Marshall, at least back when they played in the MAC in the last few years, this was a team who scored a lot of points. But from this team compared to last year's team, 14 less points per game. The last 2 years, Marshall's won 23 games. This year, 8. So it's a team that's having a down season, and how are they going to be that excited to play a UConn team? In fact, there was word that came out of Marshall that they were upset because they were only playing Connecticut here. And, you look at it from Connecticut's standpoint, this is the first time they've been bowling since 2010. The team has played with a lot of guts all year. I've made good money on Connecticut this year, especially as an underdog. They're not going to dazzle you with their offense, but defense, they play great defensive ball. This is their Super Bowl. This is what they've gone for all season long. And they get to play a Marshall team that I'm sure the coach is going to tell them 10-1 or 9-1, 9-2 their last 11 bowl games. So he's going to get them fired up here. And I like the Connecticut team here. You got the better team when it comes to play the stronger schedule. I always like to play them, especially as an underdog.
Absolutely.
And we saw this with Ohio in the game. Akron against Utah State. Akron wanted to be there. That was a big deal for Akron. Being an Akron graduate, we had never won a bowl game before. Okay. That was huge for Akron. While as Utah State, it was nothing different than what happens every other year when they have to play in Boise.
Yeah, and the strength of schedule that you point out with Marshall is huge. And so this year, Marshall, because they did play the softer schedule, they managed to avoid the better teams in the conference. They had to face Western Kentucky and it got drilled. But the situation when they did play the other ones, they didn't play as well, but their name still had the line. You're paying for past results with Marshall is what I'm trying to say. And there was a game earlier this year that unfortunately I got a push on that was a game that they totally dominated Marshall, but they turned the ball over 3 times, and all 3 times they turned it over deep in Marshall territory, which they gave up easy scores. And that's when they played Middle Tennessee State. When that line came out, the odds makers was telling you something. Middle Tennessee State had a losing record and was favored in the game over Marshall. That's like, red beacon lights going off for me, and you dig deeper, and then that's whenever, I looked and say, this Marshall team is nowhere near what they've been in the past. And so I agree with you there, and then put in the fact that you're playing in a lesser bowl. I don't see them getting excited. In the defense that you said about Connecticut, how about 17 points or less? They held 7 of their 12 opponents this year. Throw out the last game of the season with Connecticut, because if you remember, me and you did the video on that one, and that was when Temple played them. Temple was playing to go to the championship game the following week. They needed to win that to secure their side of the division, and Connecticut was coming off of beating Houston the week before, giving them their first loss of the season, and that made them bowl eligible because that gave them their 6th win. So Connecticut mailed in that last game against Temple. Just throw that out. You'll see the real performance from Connecticut today. I think they're a live dog. I agree with you.
Yeah, this is one team that really wants to be here. And anytime you find that in the bowls, that's a team you want to bet on. And we're getting them as an underdog here. I know when they beat Houston didn't have the quarterback in that game. But Houston's a really good team. That conference is a really good conference.
All right, there you go. Bryan says to take Connecticut plus the points. He's going to get my second the motion on that one. I agree with him. And guys, check out all the bowl packages. All the cappers have their bowl packages up. You can get all of their college football selections right through the championship game. Get everything, including whenever any of the cappers have their bowl game of the year, that would be included in that package. And if you want to save $10 on it, use coupon code HOLIDAY10. That's the word holiday and the number 10. You'll save $10 on the bowl packages. Be sure to check out all the other bowl games and NFL plays we have on WagerTalk.com.